A single bank. A single bank currently possesses more silver than your nation, more silver than the complete comics marketplace, more silver than most territories could possibly imagine possessing. And during their construction of this stake, during their gathering for 15 consecutive years, you were informed silver is a terrible investment. You were informed gold is superior. You were informed simply maintain your funds in the bank. They were acquiring. You were unaware. And currently they recently reversed their complete stake. They are no longer wagering against silver. They are wagering everything on silver ascending. 750 million ounces, revealed bank revealed maneuver. The inquiry is, did you overlook it entirely, or is there remaining opportunity? Let us determine. Welcome to the concealed economy. Press subscribe immediately, because what I am preparing to disclose is absent on any corporate financial network. And if this video assists you perceive what is genuinely occurring, release a comment stating "wake up" so I understand you're concentrating. Let us proceed into it. All right, I need to present you something that is going to alter how you perceive this complete situation. Extract your phone, revealed Google, investigate JP Morgan Silver Penalty 2020. Proceed ahead, I will pause. You perceive that? $920 million. The biggest penalty ever compensated by a bank for precious metals manipulation. They got apprehended manipulating silver valuations. They compensated almost $1 billion. And you understand what occurred next? Nothing. They retained their silver. They retained acquiring more. And currently they possess more silver than any private organization in human history. Let that register in for a moment. A bank gets apprehended manipulating a marketplace, compensates a penalty, and then dominates that identical marketplace. And nobody's addressing it until now. Let me transport you back to where this all commenced. Because once you comprehend the beginning, everything else becomes sensible. 2008, the financial catastrophe. You recall it, correct? Banks collapsing, individuals losing residences, the whole infrastructure almost disintegrated. There was this bank designated Bear Stearns, one of the largest on Wall Street, and they were descending under. But Bear Stearns possessed a corrupt secret. They were occupying on one of the biggest short stakes in silver history, revealed of the largest wagers against silver ever formulated. Now, here is how the mechanism operates. When a bank collapses, somebody must acquire their stakes. Somebody must absorb the threat. An estimate who emerged? JP Morgan. They acquired Bear Stearns for almost nothing. And with the bank, they inherited this substantial short stake in silver. Now imagine you are JP Morgan. You recently got delivered an enormous wager against silver. What do you execute? Most banks would attempt to escape, minimize the destruction, proceed onward. JP Morgan executed something different. Something that would require 15 years to completely execute. They retained the short stake. They utilized it to drive silver valuations downward. And while valuations remained reduced while everyone else disregarded silver, they quietly gathered physical metal. Let me state that again because this is significant. They drove valuations downward with paper contracts, and they acquired physical silver with the other hand for 15 years. Every occasion silver attempted to rally, mysterious liquidating emerged. Every occasion momentum constructed, substantial paper contracts flooded the marketplace. And every occasion valuations declined, JP Morgan was there acquiring the genuine thing. This is not conspiracy hypothesis. This is verified. They compensated $920 million because they got apprehended, but the penalty was for manipulation, not for acquiring silver. So they compensated the penalty and retained gathering. Now let me present you the figures because this is where it becomes insane. 2012, JP Morgan possessed less than 5 million ounces, barely anything. 2015, 50 million ounces. 2019, 150 million ounces. 2024, 500 million ounces. January 2026, 750 million ounces. In the previous 6 weeks alone, they added 21 million ounces. That is more than most territories possess in their complete reserves in 6 weeks. But here is what genuinely detonated my consciousness when I was investigating this. 750 million ounces. How much is that genuinely? Every silver extraction on planet Earth combined manufactures about 830 million ounces annually. That is the complete international manufacturing. JP Morgan alone possesses almost 1 complete year of international supply. Consider about that. If every extraction terminated tomorrow, JP Morgan could supply the complete world for almost a year from their stockpile alone. The comics marketplace, the location that supposedly established silver valuations, possesses 32 million ounces available for delivery. JP Morgan possesses 23 times more than the complete marketplace. The London marketplace, the LBMA, supposedly the largest silver marketplace in the world, possesses about 790 million ounces complete. JP Morgan alone possesses almost as much as the complete London marketplace. Revealed bank, not a territory, not a government. Revealed bank. Now here is where this becomes personal for you. Imagine you have been preserving funds, maybe in a bank account, maybe in some equities. You contemplated you were being responsible, but while you were preserving dollars, JP Morgan was converting those identical dollars into silver. Every year for 15 years, your dollars remained dollars. Their dollars transformed into 750 million ounces of genuine metal. And currently, let me present you what recently altered everything. Between June and October of 2025, JP Morgan executed something they had never executed before in their complete history. They terminated their complete short stake. 200 million ounces of wagers against silver vanished. Zero shorts. For the first occasion ever, JP Morgan is currently entirely long silver. Do you comprehend what this signifies? For 15 years, they benefited from silver valuations remaining reduced. That assisted them gather inexpensively. Currently, they desire valuations to ascend. The gathering is concluded. The profit phase has commenced. And here's the mathematics that should maintain you up at night. JP Morgan possesses 750 million ounces. Every single dollar silver ascends, they generate $750 million. Not a year, not a month, per dollar. If silver transfers from $100 to $200, JP Morgan generates $75 billion. If it transfers to $300, they generate $150 billion. If silver reaches its inflation-adjusted peak from 1980, which would be around $600, JP Morgan would be occupying on $450 billion worth of silver. Do you think they gathered 750 million ounces to observe silver remain at $100? They executed this to generate hundreds of billions. And here is the uncomfortable truth. When JP Morgan generates hundreds of billions, where does that funds originate from? It originates from everyone who did not position themselves. It originates from everyone who possessed paper while they possessed metal. It originates from everyone who relied on the infrastructure while they quietly dominated the marketplace. This is a wealth transfer, and it is occurring right now. All right, now let me present you why this is not merely about JP Morgan. The whole infrastructure is fracturing. You understand how a bank operation operates, correct? Banks acquire deposits. They distribute most of it out. They retain a little in the storage. Operates fine as long as everyone does not emerge at the identical occasion. But if everyone panics, if everyone desires their funds at once, the bank cannot compensate. Infrastructure fractures. The comic silver marketplace operates the identical way. They possess paper contracts representing silver, way more paper than genuine metal. Operates fine as long as most individuals merely exchange paper and never request for genuine silver. Here are the figures right now. Paper claims on comics, 760 million ounces. Genuine silver available for delivery, 32 million ounces. That is 24 paper ounces for every one genuine ounce. 24 to 1. Now, what do you think occurs when more individuals commence demanding genuine metal? I do not possess to estimate. It is already occurring. In the first 2 weeks of January, 33 million ounces were extracted out of comic storage facilities. 26% of everything they possessed vanished in 7 trading days. On January 7th alone, JP Morgan delivered 8.1 million ounces. They provided 99% of all deliveries that day. Everyone else combined, 1%. Do you perceive what is occurring? Individuals are losing confidence in paper silver. They desire the genuine thing. And the only organization that can genuinely deliver is JP Morgan because they possess the metal. Almost nobody else does. But pause. The pressure is originating from another direction too. Remember when I stated this is a wealth transfer? I was not merely addressing about JP Morgan. Revealed January 1st, 2026. China implemented strict innovative export regulations on silver. They currently treat silver the identical as rare earth elements. Strategic material restricted exports. Only 44 corporations in all of China can currently export silver, and they require government authorization. Why does this matter? Because China refines 65 to 70% of all silver manufactured in the world. They are the restriction point, the bottleneck, the gatekeeper. Before these restrictions, China exported over 4,000 tons annually to the remainder of the world. Currently, that supply is being terminated off. China is retaining silver for themselves. They perceive what is approaching. So currently consider about this. From the West, JP Morgan controls the biggest private stockpile in history and recently switched to wagering on higher valuations. From the East, China's restricting off supply to the remainder of the world. Silver is getting compressed from both directions at the identical occasion. This has never occurred before in contemporary financial history. and you can perceive the stress in the valuations. Comp states silver is 16s. That is the paper valuation, the valuation on displays, the valuation of a guarantee. But proceed attempt to acquire genuine physical silver. In Dubai, it is $165 to $170. In Japan, $140 to $150. In Shanghai, $135 to $140. There's a $40 to $70 separation between paper and physical. Individuals are compensating 60% more for genuine silver than what the authorized valuation states. Why? Because when you attempt to obtain genuine metal, there's not adequate. The paper valuation is fiction. The physical valuation is reality. And reality is screaming that silver is valued way more than the display states. Now some of you might be considering, pause, did the Hunt brothers not attempt this? Did they not attempt to dominate silver and collapse? Great inquiry. Let me inform you why J.P. Morgan will not collapse like the Hunts. 1979, Nelson and William Hunt attempted to dominate silver. They gathered about 200 million ounces. They drove valuations from $6 to almost $50. Then the government emerged in. COMEX altered the regulations. They only permitted liquidating, no acquiring. The Hunts confronted margin demands they could not compensate. They went bankrupt. Silver crashed. So the lesson everyone learned was you cannot dominate silver. The government will terminate you. But here is what everyone overlooked. The Hunt brothers utilized leverage. They acquired on margin. When regulations altered, they could not compensate. J.P. Morgan acquired physical silver, genuine metal, no leverage, no debt, no margin. You cannot margin demand someone who possesses the genuine thing outright. The Hunts possessed paper. J.P. Morgan possesses metal. And examine at the scale difference. Hunt brothers at their peak. 200 million ounces, almost fractured the infrastructure. J.P. Morgan right now, 750 million ounces, 3.75 times more. If the Hunts 200 million drove silver from $6 to $50, 8 times higher, what can 750 million execute? Imagine silver 8 times higher from here. That would be over $800. Now, I am not stating silver will strike $800, but I am stating the mathematics is the mathematics. And J.P. Morgan executed this mathematics before they gathered. They perceive something substantial. Let me present you what they probably perceive. Industrial demand. This is the portion most individuals entirely overlook. Silver is not merely a shiny metal. It is one of the most critical industrial materials on the planet. Solar panels. Every single panel requires silver. Silver possesses the highest electrical connectivity of any element. There is no substitute. International solar is expanding exponentially. By 2030, over 12,000 tons of silver demand, merely from solar. Electric vehicles. Every EV utilizes more silver than regular automobiles. 50 million EVs anticipated annually by 2030. 5G networks, every tower, every base station, all require silver. And here is the substantial one nobody's addressing about. Artificial intelligence. AI requires data centers, substantial data centers, millions of servers. Every server possesses silver in the connections and circuits. Microsoft is investing billions. Google is investing billions. Amazon is investing billions, all constructing AI infrastructure, all requiring silver. This demand did not exist 5 years ago. It barely existed 2 years ago. Currently, it is detonating, so you possess solar demand expanding, EV demand expanding, 5G demand expanding, AI demand expanding, all at the identical occasion, all requiring silver, none with substitutes in supply. Here is the problem. 70 to 80% of silver originates as a byproduct of extracting other metals, copper, zinc, lead. Only 20% originates from genuine silver extractions. So even if silver strikes $500, extractors cannot merely manufacture more. They possess to extract more copper first. That requires years to scale. Innovative extractions require 7 to 10 years to develop. Even if every corporation commenced today, innovative supply would not arrive until the 2030s. Demand is detonating. Supply cannot respond. Deficits are expanding. Inventories are draining. And J.P. Morgan is occupying on 750 million ounces, observing it all occur. Now let me connect this back to you. Consider about the next 5 years of your life. Solar panels on roofs everywhere. EVs replacing regular automobiles. 5G connecting everything. AI altering every industry. All of these trends are accelerating. All of them require silver. None of them can occur without it. Corporations like Tesla, Apple, every solar manufacturer, they require silver to function. Without it, manufacturing terminates. If supply obtains tight adequate, they will compensate any valuation. And who possesses the supply? J.P. Morgan. It is like possessing the only fuel station in a town complete of automobiles. You establish the valuation. Now you might be considering, all right, I obtain it, but is it too late for me? Let me be honest with you. Silver was $18 5 years ago. It is over 100 currently. That is a substantial maneuver. But here's the thing. Previous precious metals bull marketplaces lasted 7 to 10 years. If this one commenced in 2020 when silver was around $12, we could be in the middle innings. Maybe not even that. The fundamentals have never been stronger than they are right now. Supply deficits for 5 consecutive years. China restricting exports. Industrial demand detonating. J.P. Morgan positioned for valuations to multiply. Could there be reversals? Yes. Marketplaces never transfer straight upward. Frightening declines will occur. But the direction, the substantial perspective, everything indicates the identical way. Now let me inform you about something that occurred that almost nobody noticed. In November 2025, the Trump administration added silver to the U.S. critical minerals roster. This is enormous. The government officially recognizes silver as strategically significant. Identical category as rare earths, basically stating silver is a matter of national protection. Why would the government suddenly care about silver? Because they perceive everything I recently presented you, the supply problems, the China restrictions, the industrial demand. And here is what establishes me suspicious. J.P. Morgan reversed their stake to long right before this announcement. They terminated their shorts between June and October. The critical minerals announcement originated in November. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe when you are the largest bank in America, when you possess connections at the highest levels, you hear about these things before everyone else. You position first, then the announcement originates out, then valuations maneuver. By the occasion, regular individuals discover out. Smart funds has already maneuvered. But here's the beneficial announcement. You are discovering out currently, not 5 years from now. Not when silver is already at $300. Currently, what you execute with this information is up to you. Let me share you some things to observe going forward. COMEX inventory. If it continues declining, the compression is getting worse. Physical premiums. If Dubai and Shanghai continue compensating 60% more than COMEX, something is extremely incorrect with paper valuations, lease rates. When it costs more to borrow silver, supply is tight. Any announcement about industrial corporations struggling to obtain silver, that confirms everything. And J.P. Morgan's activity. If they commence delivering more silver to the marketplace, it signifies they are beginning to liquidate. That is when the genuine fireworks occur. Now let me address something significant. I'm not a financial advisor. I cannot inform you acquire this or liquidate that. You possess to execute your own investigation and formulate your own choices. What I can execute is present you what the largest participants are executing. And right now the largest participant formulated the largest maneuver in precious metals history, 750 million ounces. 15 years of gathering, then reversing long at what appears like the perfect moment. They are not estimating. They possess more information than anyone, more resources than anyone, more connections than anyone, and they are wagering substantial on silver transferring much higher. You can examine at that and state fascinating and execute nothing. Or you can examine at that and state, if the smartest funds in the room is formulating this maneuver, maybe I should concentrate attention. The choice is yours. Let me depart you with this. 10 years from now, you're going to examine back at this moment. You are either going to state, I perceived what was occurring and I acted, or you're going to state, I perceived what was occurring and I executed nothing. Both are choices. Both possess consequences. J.P. Morgan formulated their choice. 750 million ounces of choice. China formulated their choice. Export restrictions and hoarding. The inquiry is, what will your choice be? If this video opened your consciousness, I require you to execute something. Do not merely appreciate this video, distribute it. Transmit it to one individual you care about who requires to comprehend what is occurring. Most individuals will never perceive this information. The corporate media will not broadcast it, but you perceived it. Currently, assist someone else perceive it too. Subscribe to the concealed economy. I am going to continue breaking down what the substantial participants are executing so you are never apprehended off guard. And release a comment below. Inform me. Wake up. If this altered how you perceive silver, I examine every comment. The silver marketplace is at a transforming point. The largest maneuvers often occur when most individuals are not concentrating attention. Currently, you are concentrating attention. But before you depart, I require to distribute a few more things that will complete the perspective. Remember earlier when I informed you about the 24:1 ratio, paper claims versus physical silver? Let me present you why that ratio is even more hazardous than it sounds. When traders acquire silver futures on COMEX, they are acquiring a contract, a guarantee that someone will deliver silver at a future date. Most traders never genuinely desire the silver. They exchange the paper, acquire profits or losses, maneuver onward. The infrastructure depends on this. If everyone demanded genuine delivery, it would disintegrate overnight. But something is altering. Traders are commencing to demand delivery. Not merely a few, a lot. Normally, traders roll their contracts forward. They drive delivery into the future because they merely desire valuation exposure. They do not desire to deal with genuine metal. But currently, traders are rolling contracts backward. They're maneuvering from March contracts to January contracts, and they desire metal sooner, not later. Why the rush? Because they are concerned. If they pause too long, there will not be any metal remaining to deliver. This is the behavior you perceive before infrastructure fractures. Individuals commence losing confidence. They desire out of paper and into physical. And here's the thing. JP Morgan delivered 99% of the silver on January 7th. Everyone else combined delivered 1%. 1%. That informs you almost nobody else possesses metal to deliver. The infrastructure is operating on fumes, and JP Morgan is the only fuel station remaining. Let me share you another moment. You understand those physical premiums I mentioned? Dubai at 170, Japan at 150, Shanghai at 140. There is a reason arbitrage is not terminating that separation. In a normal marketplace, smart traders would acquire silver and COMEX at $60, acquire delivery, ship it to Dubai, liquidate for $170, pocket $64 profit per ounce. Free funds, correct? Except you cannot execute that exchange, because when you attempt to acquire delivery from COMEX, there is not adequate silver. The arbitrage is fractured because the underlying assumption is false. COMEX assumes unlimited silver available for delivery. That assumption is no longer true. The paper valuation and physical valuation are diverging because they represent two different realities. Paper represents contracts. Physical represents genuine metal, and genuine metal is getting scarce. Now let me inform you about lease rates, because this is where you genuinely perceive desperation. When someone requires to borrow physical silver, they compensate a lease rate. Consider of it like renting silver. Normal occasions 1 to 2%, plenty of silver around, no stress. October 2025, lease rates struck 35% annualized, merely to borrow silver temporarily. That is desperation. That is individuals willing to compensate anything because they cannot discover metal. Even currently, lease rates are 7 to 8%, way above normal. The stress has not vanished away. These are not figures I am formulating up. These are published rates. Anyone can verify them. The marketplace is screaming that physical silver is scarce. Most individuals merely do not understand how to hear it. Now let me connect some dots that might detonate your consciousness. Remember, I informed you China restricted silver exports on January 1st. Here is something most individuals do not realize. China does not merely refine silver. They consume substantial amounts domestically. Solar panels. China formulates more solar panels than the remainder of the world combined. All require silver. Electric vehicles. China formulates more EVs than anyone. All require silver. Electronics. China is the factory of the world. All of it requires silver. So China is not merely restricting exports to interfere with the West. They require that silver themselves. Their own demand is so elevated, they cannot afford to permit silver depart the territory. This is not a temporary policy. This is a strategic decision to secure their own supply. It signifies the remainder of the world possesses to discover silver from somewhere else. But where? Mexico is the biggest silver manufacturer, about 200 million ounces annually. But Mexico possesses its own demand, its own politics, its own priorities. Peru is second, about 120 million ounces. Identical issues. You cannot merely snap your fingers and redirect international supply chains. It requires years. In the meantime, the West is starving for silver, and JP Morgan is occupying on 750 million ounces. Perceive how the portions fit together. Let me share you one more insight that almost nobody's addressing about. The U.S. Mint. In late 2025, the United States Mint announced they were pausing silver coin liquidations. Not decelerating down, pausing. The reason they could not obtain adequate silver blanks to meet demand. The United States Mint, an arm of the federal government with the institution that literally formulates American currency, they could not obtain adequate silver. Do you comprehend how wild that is? The government cannot source adequate silver while JP Morgan occupies on 750 million ounces. The government is struggling. JP Morgan is stacked. Who possesses power in that situation? Now, I desire to address something that might be disturbing you. Is this lawful? How can JP Morgan execute this? The short answer is yes. It is lawful, and that is what establishes it so substantial. They compensated $920 million for manipulation. That was for specific trading practices, spoofing, fake orders. But gathering physical silver, that is merely acquiring an asset, not unlawful. Possessing more silver than anyone in history, also not unlawful. Reversing from short to long at the perfect moment, perfectly lawful. They performed within the regulations. They merely performed superior than anyone else. You can be frustrated by that, I comprehend. But being frustrated does not alter reality. The reality is J.P. Morgan currently controls the silver marketplace in a way no private organization ever possesses. What you execute with that information is what matters. Let me address about the gold-silver ratio, because this shares you perspective on where silver could transfer. Right now, gold is around $5,100. Silver is around 106. That ratio is about 46 to 1. Signifying it requires 46 ounces of silver to acquire 1 ounce of gold. Historically, this ratio has ranged from 15 to 1 during precious metals bull marketplaces to over 100 to 1 in bear marketplaces. In 1980, at the previous major silver peak, the ratio struck 15.1. If the ratio transfers back to 15 to 1 with gold at present valuations, silver would be 327. If gold transfers to 6,000 and the ratio strikes 20 to 1, silver would be $300. If gold transfers to 10,000 in a currency catastrophe and the ratio strikes 15 to 1, silver would be 667. These are not forecasts. These are mathematical calculations based on historical patterns. The point is, silver possesses room to operate that most individuals possess not calculated. And J.P. Morgan, they possess definitely calculated it. That is why they possess 750 million ounces. Now let me share you a framework for considering about this. There are 3 types of individuals observing this video. Type 1, individuals who will state fascinating and execute nothing. They will observe silver ascend. They will observe from the sidelines. In 5 years, they will state, I understood about this, but I never acted. Type 2, individuals who will transfer wild and invest everything into silver. They will overlever. They will not manage threat. If there's a short-term reversal, they will panic and liquidate at the worst occasion. Type 3, individuals who will acquire this information seriously, execute their own investigation, construct a stake they can possess through volatility. Consider long-term. Comprehend this is a multi-year cycle, not a obtain-rich rapid scheme. I'm not informing you which type to be. That is your choice, but I will inform you which type J.P. Morgan is. They did not panic acquire. They gathered gradually for 15 years. They constructed a stake they can possess no matter what. They contemplated decades ahead, not days ahead. That is how you perform this mechanism at the highest level. Now let me distribute what could transfer incorrect because no thesis is perfect. Government intervention is feasible. If valuations spike too rapid, if industrial manufacturing obtains disrupted, governments might emerge in.